Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now a bit ago I did a review giving my thoughts on the Omnia Oven and what people need to know before they buy one. I gotta tell you, that video elicited quite a few comments basically telling me that I didn't know what I was doing. Or probably better said, that the way I did it wasn't the right way to do it, and you need to actually have a couple of the optional accessories, and you need to use them in a manner that Omnia Oven doesn't tell you to do. So today I'm going to see if I need to eat some crow on that initial video, and if you saw it, you saw my horribly burned brownies. If you didn't see it, I'm going to link it at the end of this video. But today we are going to use the method that most of the commenters said they use to avoid burning in this oven. And this is the Omnia Oven. And the method that they use is to buy the optional silicone insert and the optional rack, and to actually put the silicone insert on top of the rack instead of in the oven like it was meant to be. So we're going to try that. And also, I'm going to follow up on a comment that I made by using a flame tamer to see if just using this simple device on your camp stove will actually make this oven perform as we would hope it would perform in a camping situation. Because if it does, this is a great lightweight tool that can really expand your outdoor cooking. So let's get started. We're going to make 2 batches of brownies, one with the flame tamer, one with the silicone insert and rack placed in their odd fashion, and we're going to see if that works. So let's get some brownies mixed up, come right back, and get this oven going. For our test today, we are going to use 2 identical Betty Crocker dark chocolate brownie mixes. So very easy peasy. I've got the first one mixed up in the oven. We're going to set the bottom on just to heat up slightly. It says to maybe let it heat up a minute. Then we're going to get the brownies on. The box does not give, as you can imagine, Omnia Oven cooking times. So it can go anywhere from about 30 minutes to 55. So we're going to start checking this in about 30 minutes. Let's get this on. We're going to get the heat turned down because one of the common consensus of everyone that has made any comments about this is low heat. You don't need high heat with this oven. You want to get it to right about where it's starting to want to blow itself out, so a simmer. All right, I just came out here at 22 minutes just to make sure the propane was still going, and I did a quick check. And I don't know, this stove maybe just won't go low enough, but I can already see around the edges the brownies are burning, although the middle seems to be bubbling up quite nicely. In the middle is still wet, so these are not done. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on. We are 1 hour and 10 minutes in. The thermometer is finally coming out of the center clean, so I'm going to call these done. As you can see, we do have some burning around the edges. So I'm curious to see what the bottom looks like. We're going to go ahead and turn the oven off at this point. We're going to let these cool slightly before we dig in. So let's just get them off of there. Set them aside, let everything cool down. We'll see how these are. And then we're going to test the other method using the flame tamer. And we're going to do that without the silicone rack raised above the oven, because that's the way that Omnia Oven says to use it. So we're going to try that and see if we can get the heat down enough. Okay, let's see how this turned out. One thing I can already see, you would not only have scorching around the outside edge, but also in the middle next to this cone. We don't have that. And that's because by raising this up with the rack, it gets it away. It's not touching the cone. So that's another thing with this, is if it touches any of this aluminum, it tends to burn. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just cut around the edges. I'm going to see if we can't dump this out, because I want you to see the bottom when it comes out. Don't want to hide the simple fact that things are often burned on the bottom, and a lot of times the reviewers don't show you the bottom. So let's see how we did. Oh, that's still pretty hot. Well, it is not burned on the bottom per se. It most certainly is anywhere that it was touching the metal. You can see along the edge here that it's definitely hard and burned. A little bit here, but this is probably one of the better looking baked brownies I've seen coming out of this oven. So let's cut into it. Let's see if it is done in the middle. It's falling apart. It's still pretty hot, but it looks pretty done to me, maybe just a touch wet. So I think that the magic here is we can cut this burn part off and actually enjoy the rest of the brownie. So, not a perfect test. We still got burning, but it's salvageable, so we can eat some brownie. Let's whip up another batch. Let's get the tame flamer. Let's get the flame tamer out and try that and see if that makes a difference. For the second test, we're going to use a very simple device called a flame tamer. And all this is designed to do is kind of knock down the heat of the fire and allow you to simmer things and that type of thing on a stove. And where we use it mostly is when we're making stews in Dutch ovens. You use this so that it takes it to a low simmer. What I'm hoping this does is knocks down this campfire flame. We've let it warm up a bit, so we're just going to set that on the burner. The bottom goes on top of that. Now I am kind of interested to see how this works because there's no hole in the center. So there's no flame coming straight up the middle of the oven. We've got our second batch of brownies in, and we're just going to go ahead and set those on. The flame is down again as low as I could get it, and we're just going to let this go and see how it comes out. So the first test with the silicone insert raised above the bottom of the stove didn't burn the bottom, which was great. It did burn the outside a bit. The aluminum just gets hot and burns things. It's very thin aluminum. But if you're okay cutting off part of your brownie, the rest of the brownie was okay. And if you cover it with ice cream, who the heck even knows? We've been going for an hour and a half. I actually turned the heat up. I think we're on to something with this flame tamer. But we were going for an hour and a half. So far we have no burning around the edges. It's starting to set up, but it's still wet inside. So I turned the heat up a little bit. I think this flame tamer is spreading the heat out. We're not getting any flame shooting straight up the hole in the center. So I'm going to keep going. I think we had a little too little heat to start with using the flame tamer because it does disperse the heat so well. So I did turn it up slightly 15 minutes ago. We're going to let this keep going, see how long it takes to cook these brownies, and hopefully by turning up the heat we haven't started to burn. Let's see, but I think we're on to something. So believe it or not, we are now 2 hours and 15 minutes into cooking these brownies. Think they're done. The good news is there's no obvious burning on either the outer edge or the middle. So I think we are on the right track with this flame tamer. And over the course of this 2 hours and 15 minutes, I have continuously been turning the heat up. So to give you an example, on my dial, when I started, the dial was roughly at, I'm going to call it the, I don't know, noon position. And now it's at maybe call it the 9 o'clock position. So I haven't turned it up dramatically, but I've turned it up as we go. I'm going to call these done and let those set just a little bit to cool off like we did the last batch. I'm going to take them out and see what we have to work with. Now, again, 2 hours and 15 minutes, totally not acceptable. I think that I started off with too low of a heat, which I find myself shocked to say that, given that we're talking about the Omnia Oven. But I think with this flame tamer, we can turn the heat up a bit more. It spreads out the heat. It doesn't put so much direct heat right in that bottom stainless steel insert for the oven, and that keeps it from spreading so much heat onto the aluminum cooking pan, which stops the burning. So anyway, let's get this out, let's see how it looks, and we'll come back with our conclusions. All right, let's see how these did. Going to use the same process. We're going to cut around the edges, make sure it's loose from the pan, and then we'll dump it out, see if we've got any burning, see if it's done. That's always important. But like I said, I think that this seems to be the answer. We just have to get the temperature right. And we have some sticking. I didn't spray this, but we don't have any burning. So that's a positive sign. We didn't get any burning at all. So I think that this is the answer. I think I needed to have the heat up a little bit more. They look like they're done inside. If you get out of the way here so you can see. So I think the flame tamer is the magic. After this test, do I think that either one of these things really solved the problem with the Omnia Oven? And the problem with the Omnia Oven is burning things. So if you see with this first one where we had it raised with the rack, we still got burning around the edges. That thin aluminum pan just gets very hot. Now I think that the flame tamer has some potential. I don't think I had the fire hot enough to start with, but we didn't get any burning. And after 2 hours, I think these could have cooked a little bit longer. I continued to turn the heat up, and I will continue to practice with that. But it's not a shoo-in. And candidly, here's my thought. Do I really want to buy and use and take out into the woods a cooking vessel that I have to figure out how to use? That every time I can burn something, or I have to take an extra tool to make it work right. I have to try to use workarounds to the way it's made to be used. And I think the answer to that for me is no. I mean, I'm going to continue to look for a baking solution for my stove, and whether it's the Coleman stove or the Coleman oven, which I will do a review on here shortly because I do have one of those and I want to really get to know that one, or my Woody Dutch oven. I think those two solutions, I don't want to have to work to figure out how to use my cooking utensil. I should be able to just use it. Now, yeah, could I burn something the first time and turn down the heat? Sure. But do I have to keep trying over and over to try to find a solution? And I think for me the answer is no. So this test didn't change my mind. It did give me some hope with the flame tamer that I can figure it out. But again, do I want to spend all my time trying to figure out how to cook in this thing? And again, that's up to you. I mean, if you like to mess around and, learn how to cook and things, then fine. But for me, it's not the solution. So, I mean, I hope you like this. I hope you appreciate me giving it the college try to figure it out and try a couple different things. And if you did and you like this content, please take a moment to give us a thumbs up, hit the sub button, and share this with your friends. And as always, take care, and we'll see you outdoors.